Oh, I'm just reading this book here. I really like its historical background, and the author just really moves me. He just seemed so conflicted when he wrote this.
No! We're formalists here. We don't care about any of that crap. All we care about is syntax, theme, literary devices, and anything that's in the text itself. None of that background information stuff. What is formalism? Formalism is a critical theory that only analyzes a work of literature's text and its nature. To formalists, the text is the most reliable part of a work of literature, and therefore should be criticized and analyzed the most. An easy way to not mix up this theory with any others is to remember that formalism focuses on the text's form.
That's right. A formalist perspective believes that other factors, such as the author, history, or the reader's opinions, are extraneous and don't contribute to the meaning of the whole at all. Formalists call the misconception that an author's purpose matters and gives meaning to the text the intentional fallacy. Similarly, they call the misconception that the reader's interpretation gives meaning to the text the effective fallacy.
You'd think that this disregard for so many other factors would make formalism such an easy critical theory to use, but that's wrong. Formalism stresses a major focus on the text structure and components, ranging from syntax and sentence structure to diction and literary devices. However, it is important to remember not to analyze literary devices that pertain to ideas or situations outside of the text itself, like satire towards an aspect of real society.
In fact, formalism has so many in-depth ways to analyze text that there are multiple types of formalism. Russian formalism, New Criticism, and Neo-Aristotelianism. Each type contributes to formalism in a unique and interesting way by analyzing the text.
Russian formalism tries to make a science out of the critical theory. It does this by primarily focusing on the most analytical part of any text, its diction and syntax. By focusing the linguistics of a piece of literature, Russian formalists believe that they can best understand the overall work.
New Criticism follows most of the general ideas of formalism, but its main goal is to find meaning in the text. By abiding by the rules of formalism, new critics believe that they can find the true meaning to a piece of literature. New critics are really adamant about ignoring extraneous factors that aren't the text, like the author and the reader, so they really believe in the intentional fallacy and the effective fallacy.
Neo-Aristotelianism is a bit more different than the other types of formalism, because it's more of a rhetorical critical theory, but it still follows formalist conduct. Neo-Aristotelianism is a greater focus on the speaker and audience of the text. However, it's very important to remember that the speaker of a text is not to be confused with the author, and the same goes for the audience. It's not the same as the reader.
Now that you have a general understanding of formalism and its ideas, let's try putting it to the critical theory to work with an excerpt from Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
So when analyzing Huck Finn through a formalist lens, there's a lot you can talk about. There's the diction and colloquialisms that give each character their own unique personalities and really help flesh out their characters. Or there's the syntax that can be found and analyzed in every sentence of the novel. Everything from the construction of the plot, symbols, motifs, and imagery can be found somewhere in Huck Finn and are crucial to understanding application of the formalist theory to this novel.
This excerpt has a lot of potential for formalist criticism. For example, from a new critic's perspective, text's overall meaning is that a person's character shouldn't be entirely defined by their education or social class. You can see this by analyzing Jim's colloquial and clearly uneducated diction, as well as by the fact that he mentions becoming a free man, indicating that he was a slave and of a severely poor social level. By adding it to the fact that he's truly grateful to Huck for having helped him out, a new critical formalist can draw the conclusion that the meaning and theme that the text is holding is that people are not limited or defined by their social status or lack of education.
Similarly, this excerpt also has a lot of potential for formalist criticism. From a neo-Aristotelian point of view, we can easily analyze the narrator, Huckleberry Finn. We know this because he tells the entire novel himself from his point of view and his experiences. Since Huck is the narrator, things will obviously be told from his own perspective and will include his own biases, which adds to the novel as a whole because the point of view of a child in the society he grows up in can often be pretty insightful when addressing flaws and hypocrisies. Although that doesn't apply much to the specific excerpt, it certainly does throughout the novel.
From a Russian formalist, this excerpt can be analyzed for its diction, syntax, and literary devices. Huck uses parallel structure when describing the sounds of the thunder as rumbling, grumbling, and tumbling, and uses a simile when describing the thunder as similar to a barrel rolling down a long set of stairs. Formalism is a theory in which critics refer to the text itself in order to determine the meaning of a work of literature. They don't focus on author's tone, reader's feelings, or historical background, but on the text itself and its structure. To those that argue that the author's purpose and background are important to the meaning of a text, formalists offer the intentional fallacy. This states that it's nearly impossible to determine the author's purpose simply by reading the text, and that in order to determine the author's purpose, one must address the author directly. Likewise, for those who argue that the reader's interpretations of a text contribute to its overall meaning, formalists offer the affective fallacy, which states that the reader does not affect the meaning of a work because of their natural biases and mixed emotions while reading the text. There are three basic types of formalism. The first is Russian formalism, which tries to make a science out of the critical theory and primarily focuses on the linguistics of the text. Next, there's New Criticism. New Criticism tries to focus on finding the meaning of the overall work by analyzing the text alone. Neo-Aristotelianism is the last formalism. It's more of a form of rhetorical criticism that analyzes the speaker of the work of literature, not to be confused with the author, and the audience of the text, not to be confused with the reader. This concludes our presentation on formalism. Thank you for your time.